All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Grab your gear because today we're taking a journey completely unlike any other. We are literally plunging from the bright, sunlit surface of human imagination straight down into the terrifying alien void of the Hadal Zone. It's going to be a wild ride into the absolute unknown. As land dwellers, we're basically tethered to solid ground. But the ocean, it constantly taunts us. I mean, it's a void vast enough to contain our deepest fears, our wildest myths, and some of our grandest metaphors. We've always kind of wondered, are we forever trapped by our terrestrial fate? Or does that pitch black water out there hold the keys to our ultimate destiny? And honestly, you can see that exact primal fear if you go back to medieval cartography. Just think about Olaus Magnus's Carta Marina from around 1544. Back then, the ocean wasn't just, a body of water. It was this terrifying realm where massive, demonic creatures roamed completely unfettered by the physical obstacles we deal with on land. The sea was literally an abyss of the unfamiliar, just waiting to swallow ships whole. And naturally, that fear bred some incredible myths. For centuries, sailors coming back from the east told these wild tales of jewel-studded underwater palaces and sea deities using magic. Even 19th century naturalists were awestruck when they saw the dark ocean suddenly glow like a sea of liquid fire. But today, we know that magical liquid fire was actually bioluminescence, a chemical reaction from disturbed microorganisms. Actually, the truth of the biological ocean, which is built entirely on adaptation, chemical warfare, and brutal efficiency, is way stranger and, honestly, infinitely more fascinating than the legends. Okay, moving right along to Section 1, Masters of the Open Sea. Let's look at predators and survival. Think about the hammerhead shark for a second. Its wide head isn't just for show, it's a terrifyingly precise sensory powerhouse. First, it sweeps that head low over the sand, essentially using it as a fleshy metal detector to scan for the faint bioelectric fields of hidden prey. Then it triangulates those tiny signals, perfectly filtering out the chaotic background noise of the ocean current. And finally, a sudden, inevitable burst to strike. It literally turns murky water into pure, lethal geometry. But hey, brute force and solitary hunting aren't the only ways to rule the open water. Dolphins show us the sheer power of collective intelligence. They herd bait fish into these super tight balls, literally building fences out of air bubbles to trap their prey. And they use echolocation not just to see, but to calculate real-time geometry. They share risks, they even take turns sleeping within their pods. They don't dominate by muscle, they dominate by connection, acting like conductors, keeping the entire middle of the ocean's food web perfectly stable. Now flip that completely on its head and contrast that chatty pod behavior with the ocean's ultimate phantom, the great white shark. Down in the cold water, power is all about restraint. The great white uses depth as camouflage, rising from the dark water below to strike pale bellies against the sky. It doesn't need constant motion. It turns absolute stillness and that terrifying absence of warning into its deadliest weapon. Going a bit deeper, we hit Section 2, the reef's hidden warfare, where it's all about weaponized chemistry. So down here, survival completely shifts to slow, calculating, heavily weaponized chemistry. On one hand, you have the lionfish. I mean, it's basically a beautiful floating piece of artwork, but it's highly invasive. It uses its venomous fins to create a closing wall, trapping prey with sheer geometry and totally disrupting the ecosystem. On the other hand, you have the stonefish. This guy weaponizes extreme patience. It completely mimics the reef rubble, essentially becoming the literal seafloor. It just waits, turning its camouflage into a lethal trap for absolutely anything that forgets to look down. And then you've got the pufferfish, which proves that brute strength isn't the only currency on the reef. It uses straight-up psychological warfare. When it's threatened, it swallows water to rapidly inflate, instantly turning into an impossible shape to swallow. Plus, the whole thing is packed with potent defensive toxins. It forces predators into this high-risk pause, basically proving to them that taking a bite is going to cost way more than it's worth. Pure, calculated deterrence. Leaving the sunlit reefs in the rearview mirror, we reach Section 3, descending to the Hadal Zone, the true pitch-black void. People have been obsessing over reaching the true ocean floor for literally centuries. There's even this wild 16th century Islamic painting depicting the legend of Alexander the Great, supposedly lowering himself into the deep in a glass box just so he could witness the marvels down there. That fascination with the extreme depths has always been burning in our minds, way before we had any technology to actually survive it. Today, of course, we know exactly where that true abyss begins. The Hadal Zone, named after Hades, the underworld. And to put that into perspective, it doesn't even start until you hit a mind-bending, crushing depth of over 6,000 meters. This zone is almost entirely confined to these massive plunging subduction trenches where tectonic plates collide. Just to be clear, at this depth, the pressure would instantly obliterate a human being. Getting down there? Yeah, that definitely didn't happen overnight. It took over a century of massive technological leaps. We went from the HMS Challenger blindly scooping up sediment back in 1875 to the RV Galathea finally sampling the trenches in 1950. And really, it was only in 2018 with the 5 Deeps expedition that we started deploying modern baited landers to explore circumglobal trenches in high definition. And the stuff we are finally finding down there in the dark, it is straight out of sci-fi. We're talking about Hadal amphipoda, recovered from the Mariana and Puerto Rico trenches. They are pale, translucent, and honestly beautiful in this incredibly eerie way. They are perfectly adapted to thrive in absolute darkness, under pressure levels that are completely unimaginable to us up on the surface. When you look at the expedition data from places like the Atacama Trench, it is honestly mind-blowing. Life in the Hadal Zone isn't just an occasional fluke. Even past 8,000 meters down, we are finding hundreds of these creatures. They aren't just barely surviving the crushing void, they're actively reproducing and completely thriving in it. But here's the crazy part. Despite all these incredible modern expeditions, we still know almost nothing. I mean, even higher up in the 4,000-meter abyss, researchers are just now, like in recent years, discovering flesh-eating crustaceans, strange sharks with eyes that literally glow in the dark, and entirely bizarre faceless fish. The fact that we are still finding such large, complex creatures proves we have barely scratched the surface of our own planet. Which leaves us with one seriously chilling final thought. Think about it. If we are only just discovering glowing sharks and massive, thriving populations at 8,000 meters, what else is down there? With so much of the extreme deep utterly unexplored and cloaked in perpetual darkness, what massive, ancient, totally alien life forms are still lurking undetected right beneath our boats?